Hello everyone. I'm starting today with some information on the House of Industry that Ernest had visited in his entry from my last video reading history number 11. When I had initially read his entry, I had thought that it was some sort of museum of the time. Now I was quite surprised once I researched it this week. It was actually a poorhouse designed to house those who had no place else to go. Before it was built, the jail was the only place for people who were homeless. Now, the house had separate dormitories for men and women, and the residents had to contribute some labor, such as sewing or working on the surrounding farmlands. They then would go on a hunt for a job for the remainder of the day. Now, Ernest would have been one of 2,000 in attendance for the House of Industry's dedication ceremony on February 2nd, 1903. Apparently, it was considered the finest house of refuge in Ontario. And from Ernest's description, before I knew what it was, it certainly sounded quite luxurious with the fireplace and the bathrooms and the shooting gallery. And the other interesting fact is that over time it eventually became Perth Community Care Centre in 1985. Now, Perth Community Care is the nursing home that my father resided in until his passing on March 24th, 2016. So very interesting to think that 15-year-old Ernest walked the same halls that his nephew spent his final days. So now I will begin with Monday, March the 2nd, 1903. March came in fine, though cold. Today we finished getting out sleepers for the barn. We have nearly 20 out, and of them 9 or 10 are elm, several others are ash, 2 tamarack, a balsam, a basswood, a poplar. March the 3rd. We made an important purchase in the shape of a horse today. We got it from Mr. Robert Allen and paid about $75. This afternoon we went to the bush and brought home a hemlock to be a sleeper under the others. This evening Pa and Ma went up to Mr. Abe Moody's. I think spring must be near at hand, as I saw 2 crows today. Wednesday, March the 4th. We felled 2 elms today. One was a pretty straight tree in our place back in the big field. The other near the 9th line in our own place too. Thursday, March the 5th. Today Pa and I went down to Uncle Johnny James, and when we were coming home we came part of the way by the railroad tracks so as to get old ties. In one place the horses went through the ice down about 4 feet, and we had to unhitch them before we could get them out. We succeeded in getting 33. This morning when we went over to feed Mr. Hosey's cattle, one of the steers was dead, and we do not know what caused its death. Friday, March the 6th. I was away a good deal of the time today. This morning Uncle Johnny James came up with a grist to take up to the mill, and as we had a few bags of oats to get hasked, we put our team on his sleighs and sent the bags up with him. Pa was asked to a sawing over at Alec Abercrombie's, and I went up with Uncle John. The sleighing is getting pretty thin in some places, and another soft day or 2 will take away the sleighing. Saturday, March the 7th. Pa went over to Alex Abercrombie's sawing again today. He sawed with Isaac Ferrier's drag saw. Much of the wood was not very sound and was not of much value. We boys took some stone from our barnyard over to the other barn with the stone bolt. Monday, March the 9th. Buggying has commenced again. So much snow went away Saturday night that we took the buggy to church yesterday. There is scarcely any sleighing on the Scotch line, but we were in the bush near the 9th line today, and the sleighing on that road is good. Tuesday, March the 10th. Uncle George Poole was married today to Miss Mary Moody. Mr. Curry married them at 10 o'clock. They left on the train for Manitoba, intending to stop at Toronto and in North Dakota. We had a litter of 19 pigs tonight, and only 2 of them are dead yet. Wednesday, March the 11th. We tapped 131 maple trees today, and I think if we wanted to, we could tap 200. Today was Ma's birthday. Thursday, March the 12th. We chopped down at the sideline between Mr. Moody's and us in the front field today. We wanted blocks for blocking up the barn, and so we felled about 10 trees along the fence. This evening, Pa and Ma went over to Alex Abercrombie's. Friday, March the 13th. We tapped about 33 trees today and have now about 160 tapped. This afternoon, Pa went to the funeral of Mr. George Berry, who died on Wednesday. I saw a robin today. Saturday, March the 14th. We commenced hewing our timber today. Mr. William McVitie had a sale of livestock today, but Pa was too busy to go to it. The sap ran poorly today. This morning, when we were gathering sap, we saw 2 wild ducks. We finished our first boiling of sap tonight and had a big pail of syrup and a little sugar. Monday, March the 16th. We handled about the most sap today that we ever did. I think we had about 10 milk cans of sap today. Tuesday, March the 17th. The sap ran very poorly today as it rained last night. Wednesday, March 18th. This afternoon, Pa and Ma went down to Uncle Johnny James. We did not gather the sap today as it ran very poorly. Thursday, March 19th. We got about a milk can and a half of sap. Pa worked at the timber most of the day. This evening, Pa and Ma went up to Uncle Sam Wilson's. Friday, March the 20th. I think that the sap season is nearly over, as we could hear the frogs croaking a good deal. Pa says we are having an exceptionally early spring. Saturday, March the 21st. The meeting of the cheese factory for the appointment of milk drawers took place today. Sam Gibson got the lower Scotch line for 85 cents. Most of the milk drawing is lower than last year. We got about a milk can of sap today. The boys brought home some small cedars with them today, which they planted this afternoon. The frost is out of the ground in most places now. Monday, March the 23rd. We gathered our sap this morning and had 4 milk cans of sap. This afternoon it rained most of the time. Tuesday, March the 24th. Today was the 17th anniversary of Pa and Ma's wedding. Pa went to the mill this afternoon. Wednesday, March 25th. We had a change of weather today as it was quite cold. Pa and Ma went to town this afternoon and took 5 gallons of maple syrup. Syrup is very scarce in town this spring and is selling at $1 a gallon. They heard in town today that Alma Poole had her first finger on her left hand cut off yesterday, and she required 8 stitches in her hand to dress it. Thursday, March the 26th. Today was Aunt Annie's birthday. There was hard frost last night, and so we had a good run of sap today, getting nearly 6 milk cans. Friday, March the 27th. We gathered 3 milk cans of sap today. It rained last night. Mr. Hogan harrowed today. This is very early to begin spring work. This afternoon, Pa and I split wood. Saturday, March the 28th. We fed the last of our ensilage today. Our first cow commenced milking today. We got 5 milk cans of sap today. Monday, March the 30th. The sap ran well yesterday, and we got 5 cans this morning, and we gathered nearly 4 cans this evening. This is about the most sap that we have ever had on hand at one time. Tuesday, March the 31st. We had a lovely day today. March has come in and is going out fine this year. Some people have been plowing for some days, but we have not started our spring work yet. Today was too warm for the sap to run well. So that is where I shall leave you today. I'm getting very close to finishing his first diary. However, I will be taking a little break in the upcoming weeks to read his letters from World War I that he wrote home from somewhere in France. As always, thank you for listening to Reading History with Great Uncle Ernest.